What's up guys, Game.Film here, and today I'm reviewing Final Fantasy XVI. Now, as a lifelong Final Fantasy fan, I had to get this day one, and I put about 70 hours into the game. Definitely had a lot of fun. I was blown away at times, but I got a few critiques to make, so let's dive right into this review. The best part about this game, guys, without a doubt, are the icon battles and cutscenes. My jaw was on the floor pretty much every boss fight. I was gripping my controller tightly, was yelling at the TV, I was in awe of the colors, the graphics, the voice acting, and the sweeping soundtrack. Watching Clive transform into Ifrit, man, I'll never forget those moments. One of my favorite moments was when I was Ifrit fighting Garuda, the wind icon, and she fucking blows my arm off. I thought I was destroying her in this fight, but no, the game pulls a 180 on me, and Garuda starts whooping my ass. I was in shock here, y'all, eyes glued to the screen. Then, I grow my arm back and turn the tables on her in quick fashion. Ifrit even does the Hellfire move, which is so cool, being it's a staple of the Final Fantasy series. By the way, what you saw there was a cinematic clash, a quick time event where you press the button on screen to initiate a move. They're very simple, and I wish they changed it up with different inputs, but it's all about the immersion, so it's not a knock in the game. Here is Shiva, aka Jill Warwick. She's the ice icon here. I think her design is stellar, one of her best looks definitely. Other staples of the Final Fantasy series you'll see in fight here, including Titan the Earth God, Odin, and Bahamut. The battles are out of this world, man. You even go to outer space at times, and it looks so freaking cool. While these fights are stunning, they are lacking in the combat department. Yes, I was immersed in what was going on. I mean, I'm this giant beast throwing haymakers, shooting fire and whatnot, but the actual fighting, I have to say, was limited and pretty button mashy. Sure, as the game goes on, you're granted a couple more abilities to switch it up, but even then, it's not as engaging as I wanted it to be. Now, let's talk about the combat overall. I'm honestly really torn over this part because on one hand, the dopamine hits, the rushes I was getting, systematically tearing baddies apart were great. On the other hand, the combat started getting a little stale the more I played the game. So how combat works is you press square for basic sword attacks and triangle for a basic magic attack. You can hold either button to do a charge attack, you can jump on an enemy to get airborne and do attacks in the air, and when you're in the air you can slam your sword down, which is one of my favorite moves. There's a total of 8 icons in the game, and each one has a set ability with circle, and then you can choose 2 of the 4 abilities available. You can also press R1 right before an enemy attack for a precision dodge. And there's an accessory that I had equipped that slows time down to make dodging easier. This felt a little cheap, but I did it because there's so much happening on screen, and I had trouble seeing the enemy winding up. Plus, when you're facing multiple enemies that sometimes aren't on screen, I had no idea when projectiles were coming towards me. There's also a parry move by attacking right before an enemy hits you, but I had no freaking clue how to do that. I got lucky a couple times in my 70-hour playthrough. It happened maybe 3 times. Stronger enemies and bosses have a stagger meter, so you have to be wary of what abilities to equip and attack with. Some abilities do more damage to enemies' health, while others are better at depleting their stagger gauge or meter. I really enjoyed plotting my enemy's demise, making it a science to use specific abilities at specific times. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, every time you use an ability there's a cooldown time, so you can't spam them. You have to get better at switching your icons and keeping an eye on the timer. After you complete a few chapters, you are able to use a limit break by pressing the L3 and R3 buttons. You build your limit break meter by doing regular attacks, and once activated, Clive will be doing more damage while lit up with fire. Looks super cool. You also gain some HP back while doing damage. Let me show you some of my bread and butter moves that I used during my playthrough. I'm a counter parry kind of guy, so I liked using Rook's Gambit. Dodging attacks with this felt really good, and it helped fill that stagger meter up too. Titan abilities were also my go-to. You can press circle to block an oncoming attack and do a devastating 3-punch follow-up. Titan also has a counter called Raging Fist. Now the animation's a little long, which got on my nerves a tiny bit the more I used it because it got kind of old, but it was very satisfying to do. So every time I found myself getting bored with my ability setup, I would switch a few out and try to find a groove. Sadly, this only worked for 2/3 of the game. Once I was near the end, I started getting burnt out. I'd be button mashing square and triangle, using the same abilities over and over. You weren't able to change abilities in mid-battle, which was pretty upsetting. I mean, come on, you're only able to choose 2 abilities and 3 different icons at a time. It's not nearly enough. Also, since my favorite abilities were counters, a lot of enemies sit around and don't attack. You have to wait a few seconds, so I would have to sit around and wait for them to do something. Which brings me to my next complaint. This game is incredibly easy. A harder difficulty should have been available right from the start. I had 2 game overs in my 70 hours of playing, and when you die you'll start back with full health and all of your potions refilled. They'll give you a generous checkpoint too, but I kind of like that part as I hate redoing stuff, but still. So what I want to do here is show you the variety of spells and abilities in past Final Fantasy games. Be aware that I'm not trying to say, oh, Final Fantasy 16, it's not a real Final Fantasy game. I'm not trying to say that, I'm just trying to show you how limited the combat system is. Now, in the original Final Fantasy 7, right, there's over 80 different materia in Final Fantasy 7, and half of these have stronger spells the more you level them up. Like Barrier, you got Physical Barrier, Magic Barrier, Reflect, Wall, Comet 2, Contain, you have Break, Tornado, Flare, Freeze, and then you can also pair like the blue support materia to other colors to make crazy combinations. And then let's look at Final Fantasy VIII, man. Look at all these Guardian Force abilities, man. You can level all this stuff up, equip all of these here. And then that's just the Guardian Force abilities, right? Look at all the magic. Look at all the magic you have. Look at all these options, Now, just for good measure, let's do Final Fantasy IX. Just insane all the stuff you can learn, man. Black magic. That's usually Vivi's right there. Got blue magic, dragon flare. Like, look at all this stuff, man. So, all I'm trying to say, man, in a minimum 40-hour game, you can only equip so little abilities. I got bored, and I bet you'll definitely get bored playing this. Now let's move on to the story. I won't get too much into this as it's been a month since I beat it, and guys, I can't remember where I put my car keys like 5 minutes ago, so forgive me. But I will say that I did enjoy the story. It's not one of my favorites. It's kind of like in the middle as far as the series goes. I thought Ultima was an okay villain. I liked his motivations, but he didn't have much charisma. He didn't have much memorable one-liners for me. I love a romance in my video games. I tipped the cap to Square for, doing the Clive and Jill romance, but honestly, it wasn't explored enough for me. They have a couple of one-on-one cutscenes. They got a little deep combo there. They held hands in one. They almost kissed but get interrupted in another. They do finally kiss at the end, but I wanted so much more, man. In my opinion, other Final Fantasies did romances so much better. If your politics are to the left like me, you'd enjoy the plot. Heroes sticking up for the oppressed, the working class folk, and they want to stop the overconsumption of resources that are ruining the planet. I like that. Major characters die in the story. When that happened, it made me emotional. Hopefully it did for you too. But yeah, man, the story, I cried a couple times. I laughed. I got super excited at moments. The story did move me, so I gotta give Square Enix credit for that. Now let's talk about the side quests. Yes, a lot of them are basic and fetch questy. I will say that. The very first one is delivering food to people at the hideaway, actually. I didn't mind the beginning side quest because in real life, guys, think about it. When's the last time you helped a neighbor with something? Like, you helped them move out, you got food for an elderly person, you went to a protest? I mean, in today's world, working from 9 to 5, it's hard to do things like that when we are all tired. And as simple as a lot of these side quests are, Clive has to start somewhere, right? He's got to gain the trust of the people, he's got to build that community. However, halfway into the game, I was pretty fed up and done with doing the side quests, man. I mean, I can name like 3 side quests to me that were outstanding, and that was it. I mean, what I hated most was you cannot run at the hideaway or when you're in towns. You're just doing this like light jog, right? So completing these fetch quests were a freaking chore, man. Like, look how long it takes to do one of these. You have to activate a conversation, right? Then you have to lightly jog all the way to get to the other side of the hideaway to get to the next conversation, and so on. I'm going to speed this up so you can see. Watch. I swear, you're going to be doing these light jogging so often, man. It really sucks because when you're doing a mainline story quest and you're coming off that high of a major boss battle, you come back to this, man, and it's a huge letdown. If you're big on lore and learning about the world, okay, you'll probably enjoy these side quests. But for me, geez, man, the more the game went on, the less I did. I did enjoy the monster hunts 10 times more than the side quests. I still found these battles incredibly easy. The enemies have a little variety to their attacks, but at least you get some rare items and crafting materials to build better weapons and gear, so there's that. Definitely do them, man. I recommend them. It's one of the better parts of the game. Now, let's talk about the graphics in the world in Final Fantasy XVI. As I mentioned earlier, the fights do look mesmerizing. Graphics are great there, but the world of Valisthea, its settings look great as well. Same with the attention to detail. A highlight for me at one point, I was about halfway through the game, right, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a main story or a side quest. So I just picked a spot on the map and fast traveled to it. I jogged around, I took the environment and soundtrack in, and I really felt at peace, man. It was a great feeling, gotta say. But this only happened once for me. I wasn't able to capture that magic again, unfortunately. One complaint I do have, as pretty as the world is, though, there's not a lot you can do when you're out in the open, sadly. You'll run into some enemies, maybe find some treasure, which most of the time is a lowly amount of gil or a crafting item you have 100 of already. This is one of the other negatives of the game. When I play an RPG or an action-adventure game, I love checking every nook and cranny of a town, going into houses, checking the drawers, the cabinets, the dressers for items, and our treasure. You cannot enter any houses in this game, which sucks. The only quote-unquote treasure or secret in this game, if you can even call it that, is if you stray off the main path a tiny bit, or explore like an alleyway in a town, you'll find a chest here and there. And okay, that's something, it made me happy when there was a little something. But it was almost always a worthless item, or even 2 freaking gil like this right here. Lame, man. Why can't we get secrets like, for example, in Final Fantasy VII, right? You find this door you can't open. You walk outside and hear a random board creak. You examine it, you find a key, you go back to this door, break the key, have a dialogue option with the homeowner. They give you a rare accessory called the curse ring. Pretty cool, right? There was none of that in this game. And just to throw some other cool stuff, like in Final Fantasy VII, the sunken airplane, there's optional characters like Yuffie and Vincent, Chocobo breeding to get super secret materia, the old man at Calm, Final Fantasy VIII, there's a sunken research facility, secret guardian forces, i.e. Odin, Tonberry. I can go on, but you get the point. Another criticism I have is the crafting. It feels a bit soulless to me. You do a main quest, you find some crafting items in that chapter, go to the blacksmith, you'll upgrade your gear to like +5 across the board each and every chapter. It really doesn't feel like it makes a difference at all. I'll give the game some credit for making it simple at least, because sometimes I get overwhelmed in, say, a Dark Souls or Fallout game where there's so many things in your inventory, and I get overwhelmed and frustrated. Like I mentioned earlier, doing monster hunts does gain you rare crafting items, so taking those back to the blacksmith and crafting something special after my hard work felt good, so I'll give the game some praise for that. Now to some other positives. I gotta commend the voice acting in this game. I really can't say I disliked anyone here. Big props to Ben Starr as Clive, Ralph Ensign as Sid, and Stuart Clark as Dion. Those 3 are the major highlights for me. Check out this one simple line from Ben Starr here.
You ready?
Are you ready? Man, that's some sexy shit.
I got major goosebumps from that one simple line, man. Can you imitate his voice? Because I can. I tried a dozen times, and I couldn't come close to it at all. Another positive from the game is the soundtrack. It definitely slaps. I'm not sure where to rank it to other Final Fantasy games. It's probably in the middle of the pack, as I'm not really humming it weeks later, but it's very good. Here's a couple of my favorites. Remember when I said the icon battles and cutscenes were the best parts of the game? The music definitely plays a part with that. It really got the adrenaline going. High five to Square Enix here. So we are approaching the end of this review. I just wanted to plug some similar looking images and sounds I found in other media which may have influenced the developers here. Take a look and listen to these side-by-sides I created. The first is Jurassic World. The second is Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. This next one, Clive dodges an attack from Benedicta. Then he is cornered by her and she says dodge this, but gets taken down by Torgal. In The Matrix, the agent dodges an attack from Neo. Neo gets cornered, but in similar fashion he is saved by Trinity with the iconic line dodge this. Couldn't add the audio in fear of a copyright strike.
After that, whatever happens, happens.
Oh well. Whatever happens, happens.
Okay, maybe that last one I was reaching, but hey man, how many times have we heard someone say whatever happens, happens in media? I think Square Enix was definitely making a nod to Cowboy Bebop there. Anyways, I forgot to mention how great of a good boy Torgal is, so here's a clip of him kicking a guy off a cliff. Love him so much. So that about wraps up my review, guys. If you were on the fence about buying this game, I recommend you purchase it. You'll have a good time with it, I'm pretty sure. It has some of the highest of highs I've ever seen and felt in the Final Fantasy series. The story's solid, it's got great voice acting and graphics. I do think it overstays its welcome a bit. It got stale towards the end. I wish the combat had more depth to it. Plus there needed to be better side quests, a lot more secrets, and there's no mini games, man. I'm pretty upset about no mini games. Final Fantasy series always has mini games, right? Anyways, I'm giving Final Fantasy 16 a 8 out of 10 score. And guys, I have been in a funk lately, man. I started this year off strong, trying to make a video a week, but the past couple months have been pretty tough on me. I've been really struggling to get into a groove with editing and creating. This video felt really good to make though. Pretty happy about it. I hope to finish these last couple months strong for y'all. Please let me know what you think about this review. I have been shadow banned after one of my latest videos. It makes me pretty depressed thinking about it, actually, but I could use your help by leaving a like, commenting on this video, letting the video play in its entirety. It really helps boost that algorithm. And please sub if you haven't. I'll leave my link tree in the description. I've got 8 different socials I'm active on almost daily. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Peace.